So I hope everybody's having a good day and everybody's doing well. Today I wanted to talk about um, meditation and how meditation helped me through my overthinking process. Uh, for people that don't know, I overthink. I'm a critical thinker and I overthink a lot of things, and it caused a lot of anxiety for me overthinking. And the reason why I have these two belts up here is this is the things that I was overthinking about when I had fights coming up. In my last two fights were title fights, and meditation was the thing that really helped me get the edge on my opponents. Meditation was the thing that pushed me over the edge. Besides the physical training that I was doing for my body, the mental and spiritual aspect of meditation gave me the edge in those fights. And I'm going to explain to you how in a second. But I just want to point out the fact that I just finished last month a 21-day meditation program. It was amazing. The people gave me good feedback about the meditation program, and the meditation program was about relieving stress and anxiety. Two things that had plagued me in my life, and I felt like putting together a program to help people deal with stress and anxiety was an amazing thing to do, and I'm glad that I was able to accomplish that, and I'm glad that I was able to help people, and the people that took the program were able to benefit from that. But moving on, so I had a lot of stress and anxiety, mostly anxiety when it came to having fights. When I had fights coming up, no matter how much you train your body, uh, you still get, well, for me, I still got anxious. I still got anxiety behind training and going into the fight. And what helped me in my last two fights, my last two fights was the meditation aspect of it. So what I decided to do, because I'm an overthinker and I'm a critical thinker, anxiety comes from all the thoughts that you think might happen or things in the future. So my anxiety was about, what if I get knocked out? What if I get embarrassed in front of a whole bunch of people that I don't even know? So that really didn't matter. But those are thoughts that went through my head. I don't know if it goes through other fighters' heads, but that was something that definitely went through my head. And just having that anxiety, you get in the cage or you get in the ring and you get shy, you get trigger shy. Like you can't let punches and kicks go. You hesitate too much. And one of the things that people deal with is adrenaline dump. And what happens is, um, from my aspect of it, the cortisol in your brain builds up and it shuts down the other functions in your brain, which shuts down your body. Cortisol is a stress hormone, and it shuts down your body, and it makes you not able to think. It makes your when you're not able to think, you're not able to produce. So being able to get a control of the cortisol that is released in your brain through the amygdala is a big aspect of being able to think properly, being able to produce the result that you want mentally in the cage or in the ring. So what I did leading up to these fights, um, my meditation practice was very extensive. I would meditate for, I'll say, at night, probably an hour at a time. And what I did was I went through everything that can happen in the fight. And that may seem like a lot and it may seem unrealistic, but to look at it from the aspect of different point of views, different perspectives of what can happen in the cage or in the ring with the opponents that I was going against. Now, kudos to my opponents. My last two opponents, I believe, were the two toughest opponents, most seasoned opponents that I had. And I had a lot of anxiety around those fights because they were title fights, and it was something that I looked forward to. It was something that was on my list to do, was to get a title. And So what I would do is think about every aspect of what can happen, what I would do in every situation, and what the opponent would do in these type of situations. Now, mind you, my first opponent was a striker. He had extensive striking background. He was very explosive. So I just thought of every aspect of, the give and take of what would happen in those fights, in that fight, and what he would do and what I would do to counteract that. Now, this was a long process. It wasn't something that I just did for like a day or two or like a week or two. This was something that I did probably 2 months leading up to the fight. Even in my training, when I went to go spar, I sat down and I meditated before I sparred. I stretched, warmed up, and I meditated, going through processes of what can happen when I'm sparring, what my opponent would do while I'm sparring, what attacks they would come at me with, if they would come at me with takedowns, and what I would do. And what that does, it trains your mental, it trains your mentality, to be ready for what's get ready to happen in these fights or these training sessions, and your body is able to react like that instead of you having to think in that moment. Because when you think in that moment, you have a little gap in between when your body is reacting, as opposed to already seeing it coming, and you know what your body is going to do. You know what you're going to do. You don't have to think about it because you already did it mentally, psychologically in your head. So it's not even, I'm not even gonna say it's second nature. It just flows. It flows together. Um, so yeah, my first opponent was a striker, and my second opponent was more or less a grappler. He was a bully. I'll call him a bully. He was a big guy, strong guy, and he was known to bully you into the corner, slam you, and beat you up. Um, and I'm not gonna lie, the first round, I was moving around, giving him the hands, and he grabbed me and he slammed me. And that's just something that happens in a fight. It was unavoidable, but it was something that I seen coming, and that was one of the unavoidable things during the fight. I still ended up, retaining the title, and I'll talk about that in a second. But I'm going to be completely honest. No, I could not see 100% of everything that would happen in the fight. I'm going to be I'm going to say for myself, I could see 70 to 75% of the things that was going to happen in the fight play out as I was actually fighting. And it relieved, I had no stress, I had no fears, I had no anxiety going into these fights because I knew what was going to happen. And one thing that happened in my first fight that, even through meditation and through this process, I did not see happening. After the bell rang, I got hit with like kind of an uppercut when I was on the ground, and that was after the bell rang. And you kind of don't. You may think that opponent may do that if they're a dirty fighter, but he wasn't, to my knowledge, a dirty fighter. So it was a mistake. He hit me after the bell rang, and that's something that I didn't see coming through meditation. It didn't really affect me. It was a shocking event that happened because you don't expect to get hit after the bell. But besides that, I seen 70 to 75% of the fight play out as it played out. And I knew what was going to happen, when it was going to happen, and my reaction time was so much quicker. It flowed together, and I was able to utilize a lot of the things that my coaches taught me in training because I also trained that mentally through my meditations, and it just flowed together, and it was like seamlessly. In my second fight, one thing that I didn't see coming, he actually got a hold on me again, and I believe this was in the second round. And when he went to pick me up, instinctually you reach out, and I grabbed the cage, and they took a point from me in the second round. So that fight actually ended up in a draw, which had me retain the title. But had I not grabbed the cage in that instant, uh, then he might have taken me down. He might not. You don't know how that would have played out. I don't know how that would have played out. In my mind, I feel like that he still wouldn't have slammed me, but because he didn't get the slam and my arm did grab the cage, my hand did grab the cage, the referee took a point from me, which means I won that round. But since they took a point, it was equal, and then I won the third round. So he won the first round. It was equal in the second round because they took a point from me, and I won the third round, so it ended up in a draw, which again had me retaining the title. So something that some people may know, hopefully everybody knows, when you learn new things, you build new synapses in your brain. And when you build new synapses in your brain, you have new neural pathways. Your brain expands, your thinking expands. You have a different perspective of what things may be. You think differently. So through meditation, I was learning mentally, psychologically, what I'm capable of doing. Now, mind you, I'm not thinking in my mind I'm gonna, do a backflip in the cage or in the ring or anything like that. I'm doing things in my mind that I know that my body can do through my training. And because you build those neural pathways, your muscles are able to react in the way that they need to react in less than a split second, because you know what's going to happen. You know what you're capable of doing. You know what your opponent is going to do from watching him and actually visualizing that in your mind, and you're able to counteract the things that he's about to do. And if you get caught, I got taken down in the first round, and I knew how my opponent would react from the takedown. So I stayed calm, and I was able to come back from that in the later two rounds. In the beginning of that first round, if anybody want to watch those videos, they're on YouTube. You just type in my name, Aaron Nobles, and a couple of my fights come up. But my last two fights for this promotion, which is actually out of Philadelphia, Art of War, is an amazing promotion. And hopefully through this pandemic, they're able to start, producing more fights. And I'm glad that they had me on their promotion. I'm glad that they had the confidence in me to come in and produce good, entertaining fights. So I appreciate you guys. But yeah, back to the story. You're able to see what's going to happen as it's happening. I'm not going to say before it happens. You may get a feel of what your opponent is going to do, because they may have tendencies, and you may have visualized the tendencies that they have. If somebody is into watching film on their fighters that they're going to fight, which I never really did, you can watch film on it and pick up the things, the ideas that in their fighting style. The reason why I knew the fighting style of my two opponents that I had, I was actually at their fights before. So I inevitably saw their fighting style. And my coaches look up their fighting style, and they just talk to me about, how they are as fighters. So what happens is, for what you do is you create a neural mental roadmap. And this is separate from a game plan. When you're with your coaches, you have game plans. And game plans is, you're going to go in, you have game plan A, you have plan B, maybe you have to go to plan C and D if your opponent starts to switch things up. But this neural mental roadmap, if anybody knows anything about maps or roadmaps, quick story. When my dad owns a carpet company, so when we used to, it was way back in the day when I was like in high school, when we used to have to go pick up carpet, and it was like around the time GPSs came out, but it was MapQuest. So instead of using MapQuest where you had to print all the paper out and stuff like that, my dad actually had a map in the car. So like when we had to find a destination to where we had to go lay the carpet, he had a map. So it's like, in order to get to where we had to go, we had to have a map. So he had a map. It had the states, and then it goes down to the cities, and then it goes down to the streets. And, it was like little, I could have sworn he had like little alleyways on the next page. So it was like you had to find directions to the state that you were going to. And then when you get to the state that you're going to, you have to go to the map that has the streets on it. And then when you go to the map that has the streets on it, you go to the map that has the alleyways on it. So this was the way that we found how to get to our destinations. Now, a plan is, you're going to go straight, you're going to go right, you're going to go left, and then you got to make a U-turn, and then you're there. That's a plan. That's plan A. Okay, if when you make that right, it's a roadblock. Plan B is you go left and then double back and then you're there. So that's the premise of plans. This is what you're going to do. If that doesn't work, this is what you're going to do. If that doesn't work, this is what you're going to do. Now, a map is a wide perspective of what everything is. And because you have the whole map, you can use the whole map. This is the state. These are the many different ways to get to the state. Once you get to the state, these are the many different ways to get to the city that you need to get to. Once you get to the city, these are the many different ways to get to the block that you have to get to. And there is all mapped out for you. So what I did was create mental neural a mental neural map in my mind of what would happen in this fight. If he does this, this is the many different things that I can do to his reaction. When I act, his reaction is going to be this, or this. And once he reacts, this is what I'm going to do to his reaction. So I had a map of what the fight was going to be. I didn't have, my coaches had plans. They gave me the game plan, which was cool. And I, respect my coaches and I listen to my coaches. But also for myself, to relieve my anxiety, to relieve stress, I had a mental neural map. The synapses in my brain connected differently through my meditations in order to relieve all the stress and anxiety going into these fights. And I can, again, 70 to 75% of the time know what's going to happen. And you may be thinking like, oh, well, 70% of the time isn't a lot. But if you guessing, if you're going with your game plan and your game plan A, B, and C didn't work, then what do? Then you can switch over to your map, and you know what you're going to do in this situation. In these fights, it was only 3 rounds, and it was 3 3-minute rounds, so you don't have a lot of time to be sitting there going through game plans. I unfortunately didn't turn pro, so I didn't have 5 minutes. But then 5 minutes, I don't want to be getting beat up for 5 minutes and then be like, all right, coach, that game plan not working. What we gonna do? Oh, go to game plan D, and then D not working. I then got beat up for 3 rounds. It was like, all right, give me another game plan. Like, what we gonna do? So, I listened to my coaches. We stuck to the game plan while me accessing these maps in my mind and my brain in order to produce the results that we needed, which was the titles. And I was thankful for that. I want to actually put together a program and teach and show people how to go through this process. I just talked about it. If you want to try to do it on your own, it's fine. If you want to reach out and you want to sit down and do a consultation and go through a process and see if it works for you, even if you just go through a short process and you see if it works through your training, we can definitely do that. But I'm going to do this for fighters. It works for athletes across the board. You don't have to be an athlete if you want to just do this for your daily life. It works for that as well. But as far as fighting, I know this works. I did it 2 times. I unfortunately didn't have the opportunity to do it a third time going into when I was trying to turn pro. That unfortunately didn't happen. But I still will use this as I train jujitsu, as I train striking, and through sparring. Uh, Again, if you would like to try this program out, if you would like to try out how this actually works and how it will calm your body, how it will lower the cortisol in your mind through your amygdala to lessen that stress hormone and that anxiety, definitely hit me up and we can set up a consultation. And just moving forward, I just hope everybody who is in the fight game, everybody who is in sport, professional or non-professional, take care of your body, take care of your mind. And I hope everybody was able to take something from this video. I know it ended up being a little longer than I expected it to, but I just wanted to get my point across, and I just wanted everybody to understand the power of meditation and how meditation helped me combat my overthinking and how it helped me bring down that cortisol, bring down that anxiety, and get a hold on who I was as an athlete, as a fighter, um, and just be able to home in on my abilities and retain the title and gain the title. So I appreciate you guys for listening. Again, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please reach out. I'm open for discussions. Leave comments below. If you have any disputes, if you want to dispute what I said, you definitely can. I look forward to that conversation as well. Um, but other than that, everybody have an amazing day, and I will talk to you guys soon. Thank you.